Did it turn to a red square? Oh, Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem, Baruch Haba, and welcome to our advanced studies here at Congregation Mashiach Yisrael.
A small mirror behind it would help, actually.
Oh,
See exactly what it's doing.
Possibly. Welcome again. My name is Scott Siskin, and tonight we're going to be studying Likutei Amorim Tanya, the Alter Rebbe's Tanya of Rabbi Schneur Zalman of Liadi.
Baruch Hashem.
Baruch Hashem. Mi yiftach otanu b'tefilu uvracha. Who would like to open us with prayer and a blessing?
I can do that. I mean, we praise you and bless your holy name. Thank you for opening up your wisdom and your knowledge and your understanding for us. Help us to receive it. Help us to pass it on. Help it to fill our lives with light and everyone's we touch. In Yeshua's name we pray.
Amen.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu le'asok b'divrei Torah. Amen. Amen.
Those are good cookies.
Baruch Hashem. So, and Baruch Hashem as well for the warm weather today. Forgive me if I'm schwitzing a bit. Please pardon my shininess. Tonight we're studying chapter 14, Perek Yud Daled. We're going to be studying again about the concept of the Beinani. We're going to learn a very important lesson tonight.
How did you underscore that? Pirka?
Perek?
Perek?
Perek means chapter. Yud Daled 14.
Right. Oh, there it is.
Or Arba Asar. Yep, it should be right there in the bold.
I was saying, no, it's chapter 14 of Likutei Amorim.
Likutei Amorim. Yep. Assorted discourses. Or speaks. So, in chapter 14, we're going to be talking again about the Beinani. Tonight we're going to be learning a very important topic, a very important concept. If you learn nothing else from Tanya, how many times have I said that so far? If you learn nothing else from Tanya, learn this fact. We're going to learn tonight in chapter 14 that everyone, and again, 14 is the numerical value of David, Mashiach, right? King David.
What is it?
14.
14 generations.
14 generations. It's a very messianic number, right? In chapter 14, we learn anybody can become a Beinani. Every human. It's totally possible that we should be able to suppress our negativity and only actualize our godliness. It's possible. And this is a deeper meaning of the verse that we started Tanya on, Deuteronomy 30:14.
It's near to you.
You can do it.
This thing is very near to you, Torah and mitzvahs, beficha, in your mouth, ulavavcha, and in your heart, la soto, that you should do it. And it's possible you could really do it, and that's what we're going to study about tonight.
And that's, you just said what the first sentence says.
Yeah.
Which is, the rank of Beinani is one that is attainable by every man. And each person should strive after it.
Amen, amen. It's not necessarily in the cards that everyone should become a tzaddik, right? It takes a certain amount of spiritual potential that either you're born with it or you're not. However, anybody can become a Beinani. So in chapter 1 of Tanya, the Alter Rebbe began asking some questions to try to set the stage for us so we could really understand what this term Beinani truly means. And we answered some of those last week in chapter 13, and we're going to answer some more of them tonight. So I guess let's just jump in. We already started with the first verse. You want to keep going from there?
Every person can at any time or hour be a Beinani, because the Beinani does not revile evil. Footnote says, refers you back to chapter 11 and 12.
Right.
For that is a feeling entrusted to the heart, the reviling of evil. And not all times are alike. In other words, in this world and with our makeup and our feelings, we don't go.
We're not the same every
go
moment of
through
the
all
day.
kinds of different junk, right?
The footnote here says prayer, for instance, right? And we've talked about that before. While you're in the middle of prayer, you feel like a saint. You feel like a tzaddik. You feel like a really righteous guy, right?
Not just feel like.
You really look like
you.
Right?
You can.
And some would even say you are.
Right.
That said, you know that you're not because a couple hours later, it doesn't look like it anymore, right? A tzaddik, you would look like it all day. So using that as a kind of a backdrop, what is the difference? So we've said it before, we'll say it again. What's the difference between a tzaddik and the Beinani?
The tzaddik has totally subjugated the evil inclination and transformed it. So it's as if he had two godly inclinations.
Shkoyach, Torah point for you. Very well done. The tzaddik has totally changed the animal soul into another godly soul. He doesn't desire negativity anymore. He doesn't desire physicality anymore. He's not a pleasure seeker anymore. What's the same about the tzaddik and the Beinoni?
The same.
What's the same about them?
They do not.
They don't give in to their evil inclination.
Yeah, they do not give
They
in,
toe the
and
line.
They do not sin.
They don't sin.
Essentially.
Where don't they sin? In any of their garments. They don't do sins. They don't speak lashon hara or words of sin, and they don't think evil, sinful thoughts. Right? Mm-hmm. They don't fantasize about negative things and then don't do it. They don't even think about it. They have a thought comes into their mind. They push it out.
Mm-hmm. The garments, words, deeds, and actions.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
This is like a tzaddik and a Beinoni, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
What's different about the Beinoni and the tzaddik? You just said it. The tzaddik no longer desires these things, right? Mm-hmm. He's not going to want to dwell on a sinful thought, a tzaddik. A tzaddik is not going to want to share a little gossip. A tzaddik is not going to want just a bite of the ham sandwich, right? It's not going to happen.
He is
so
refined.
He refined. Right? What did he refine? Kabbalistically speaking. Okay.
The Sitrachka.
Sitrachka, Kabbalistically speaking, that's good. Right. Give us some more. When we talk about the
Sphira.
He's
not even tempted, is what you're saying.
Not even tempted. So what did he change that the Beinoni didn't change? The Beinoni's perfected his thoughts, his actions, his words, and his thoughts.
At length
it's an important thing for us to remember.
Not only his evil inclination or sitrachka, but his soul powers.
Right. What are the soul powers?
The midot.
The midot and
10 separate.
And not just the emotional, that's the midot, but also the seichel, also the intellect, right?
Yeah, okay.
All 10 are chopped up into intellect and emotion. And that's exactly what the tzaddik changed and sublimated and elevated and turned into a godly thing. It's seichel for the seichel and midot. Intellect and emotion. The Beinoni hasn't touched his intellect. He hasn't touched his emotion. He still thinks and he understands sinfully, materialistically, selfishly. He still feels materialistically, selfishly, pleasure-driven. That's what's different between the tzaddik and the Beinoni. The tzaddik mastered his soul powers. The Beinoni didn't even start. However, they both toe the line, right? So a Beinoni looks like a tzaddik because he's a really righteous guy. He's never sinning. He's never speaking sin. He's never thinking sin. What's this?
You see, I do take good notes.
You certainly do. God bless you. Yasher koach. What's the same about the Beinoni and the Rasha?
The same? They are tempted by evil.
They're both tempted by the same evil inclination, the same drives, right? Mm-hmm. What's different about the Beinoni and the Rasha?
The Beinoni subdues it.
The Beinoni doesn't act on it, right? He toes the line, he doesn't sin. And the Rasha slips. He fails, right? Mm-hmm. With that as an introduction, please continue. Or as a aside, I guess.
His task, that is the Beinoni, is only to turn away from evil and do good. In actual practice, in deed, in speech, and thought, the garments of the soul, wherein the choice, ability, and freedom are given to every man that he may act, speak, and think. There's the garments again. Even what is contrary to the desire of his heart and diametrically opposed to it.
And this is the secret weapon of the Beinoni, right? We spoke about it last chapter, the chapter before, where we talked about human beings are created upright, where our brain, our head is
above our heart.
Over our heart. You can want something with such a burning, fiery passion that it makes you shake and sweat, and you can still say no and not do it, right? That's a human thing. And it's the ability of any normal, capable human, right? And it's using that weapon, mind over matter, that you can actually be a Beinoni, that you can actually toe the line. You could want to think about something negative and choose not to.
Deuteronomy 30:14.
It's really true. You can do it. You can really do it.
You can do it. Even when the heart craves and desires a material pleasure, whether permitted or, God forbid, prohibited, he can steel himself and steal himself.
You know, like steel, like iron.
Yeah. In other words,
fortify himself, sure.
And divert his attention from it altogether, declaring to himself, I will not be wicked even for a moment, because I will not be parted and separated. Heaven forbid. From the one God, blessed be he, under any circumstances, being mindful of the admonition, your iniquities separate you or interpose between you and God.
And this is Isaiah 59:2. And this is a very important fact. What's keeping the Beinoni away from sin? If we are all battling in the same pot here, then why doesn't the Beinoni sin? This is what the Beinoni tells himself. I'm not going to be wicked even for a single moment.
Mind over matter.
Because I don't want to be... Because why? Because I don't want to be...
Because he doesn't want to separate.
Doesn't want to be parted and separated. How does he know? The Bible says, even if you sin for just a moment, at that moment during sin, before you do teshuva and come back, at that moment of sin, you are totally separated from God with an absolute separation. Chas v'sholom, God forbid. Rachmana litzlan.
Russia.
You're a total rush in that moment.
At that time.
At that exact moment. Afterwards, okay, maybe you feel guilt. You're not so complete a rush anymore. While you're doing it.
And this really, you were describing it, what it is. If I were to just put it in a shorter chunk, I think you could be called the love of God. Love and fear of God.
Absolutely. What's the... and that's very important because we're gonna be transitioning into that. What is this hidden love? So what is the hidden or the innate love of God? I want to be near him, like my father, right? The kid wants to be near his dad. Mm-hmm. What's the innate fear within us? I don't want to be separated from him. I don't want to be away from him, right? That's the basic human, that's what it is, right? Recognizing God, wanting to be near him and not wanting to be away from him. And this is where the oath comes from, or the admonition. It says, Shuv me'ra, I'm trying to look for it here. Shuv me'ra va'aseh tov. I still can't find it. Oh, here it is. Turn away from evil. Shuv me'ra va'aseh tov. And then you should do good, right? Well, it's a two-part command. You should turn away from evil and do good, and that's fear and love, respectively.
That's good. Actually, good enough. I'm going to write that now. Love of God, desire to be near to him. Fear of God is the...
Fear of being away from him, parted from him. And that's the basic basal BIOS input-output system, right?
Say it again?
It's a metaphor from computer term. BIOS is basic input-output system.
Okay.
That's our basic operating system.
Sounded very matrix.
Oh. Where do you think they got it from, right?
We're trying to, what is it? Identify your input-output
carrier signal?
Things, to pinpoint your location.
Right. Well,
what are you talking about? At that point, he says, what?
Jumping on that metaphor for a second, if you can, and this is just a metaphor and just an aside, but if you can identify your location based on your input-output signal, what would be the input-output signal or what would be the location of someone whose input-output signal was, I don't want to be away from God, I want to be near God?
With God.
His position's in Israel, right? His position's in the olive tree. That's where you could find him.
Instead, my real desire is to unite my nefesh, ruach, and neshama with him. Through investing them in his three garments, blessed be he, namely action, speech, and thought, dedicated to God, Torah, and the mitzvot.
Right. What are God's garments of action, speech, and thought? Doing mitzvahs, speaking words of Torah, and meditating on the God's secrets of Torah, right?
Mm-hmm. This whole section is just great. There. By virtue of the love of God that is hidden in my heart, as in the heart of all Jews who are called those who love your name, even the most unworthy among the worthless is capable of sacrificing himself for the sanctity of God. Surely I am not inferior to him.
And this is going on, the Alter Rebbe is talking about what the Beinoni is saying to himself, right? Every time the Beinoni wants to sin, and remember, this is why a Beinoni is not a tzaddik. He wants to sin, right? Every time he wants to sin, he says this paragraph to himself in his mind, or some permutation of it. And this is right here where it says, even the most unworthy among the worthless is capable of sacrificing himself for God, for the sanctity of God. Surely I'm not inferior to him. The Beinoni is not trying to make a comparison, God forbid. The Beinoni is saying, my innermost essence, the same essence of every other Jew, is that I'm connected to God with this basic love and fear, right? That's what he's trying to say. He's not trying to compare, he's trying to snap his brain. He's trying to snap his heart back in place and have his brain controlling with this little speech.
Even the most... Wait, is that where I was?
Yeah.
Even the most unworthy among the worthless is capable of sacrificing himself for the sanctity of God. That's where I stopped.
Yeah.
Surely I am not inferior to him. It is only that a spirit of folly has overcome him.
This other guy who did sin.
and he imagines that committing a sin will not affect his Jewishness, and his soul will not be severed thereby from the God of Israel, forgetting also about his love of God which is hidden in his heart. But as for me, I have no desire to be such a fool as he to deny the truth.
So, what is the spirit of folly? We've talked about it a couple times before. We'll talk about it a bunch more later. It says, nobody sins unless they are overcome with a ruach shtus, a spirit of folly. What is the spirit of folly?
Hasatan.
Okay. What does it tell us?
Did God really say that?
Okay. Even more basic.
That's That's pretty basic.
Even more basic. And you can even use what you said, because it's accurate.
God really say that? Does he? Would he want to withhold this from me? Right. Okay. This is how we think.
Is it that? Right. Is it the spirit of folly is going to say to you? Is it that big a deal?
Yeah,
are you not going to be saved? Are you not going to? And people use this argument: overcome with the spirit of folly, just walking around in the daytime.
It's
and they
really trying to, what do you call it? Rationalize.
I always used to teach the kids, if you start rationalizing, you're already going in the wrong direction.
You're already probably wrong. The ruach shtus, the spirit of folly, will tell us it's just one little sin. It's not that big a deal. Surely God will forgive you, or it's going to come out in the wash, and maybe He's not even going to see this one. It's not going to be, or He's not going to call you on the table for it. Mm-hmm. You're not going to hear about this in the heavenly courts of judgment. Don't worry about it. It's not even going to show up. It's not a big deal. That's what the spirit of folly says to us. What did we say before? Any sin. We spoke a couple weeks ago. All sins are equal, right? What did I mean when I said all sins are equal? It means that every sin while you sin it, you are totally removed from God. Absolutely. It doesn't matter what the sin was. It could be something like not saying grace after meals, or it could be murder.
In other words,
and it's the same.
Its effect is the same separation.
You're separated from God.
It's equal. However, there are gradations of sin.
Right, and okay, fine. Every one of them still is going to separate you from God, absolutely. Right. As such, the spirit of folly comes and attacks that exact point and says, it's not like you murdered, it's not a big sin. It's just like you could totally brush it under the rug in a couple of weeks.
Let me rephrase it. This is how I put it in my notes. The spirit of folly seduces us to sin.
Seduces us to sin by telling us specifically that we won't be separated from God when we do it. Mm-hmm. You won't be separated from God when you eat this ham sandwich, when you shave your face, when you, whatever it is, you won't be separated from God. That's a lie, right? It's a horrible lie. And we're going to talk in a couple of weeks here in our, would you like a little napkin here?
Would you like a
that would be nice.
It's a little covered in schwitz, so I apologize about that.
Oh, that's okay.
But
I've had so much ice in the cup. The ice is gone, but the condensation is there.
Tis the season.
We're, of course, studying Tanya out of order. We should all be studying with our brethren out there on the daily, regular Tanya schedule anyways. But by doing it slowly like this, we get to go over some concepts.
Which we did last year.
Right.
We're actually recapping.
Right.
At a slower pace.
Let us really digest it. In our place where we are in the calendar here now in May, we will be shortly in a couple of weeks here reading in Deuteronomy the Parsha of Akev, I believe. Akev, one of the main messages of Parshat Akev is do all the mitzvahs. The mitzvah Akev means a heel, right? Even the mitzvahs that people normally step on. It's not that big a deal, right? It's not like, so I spoke about a guy. It's not really Lashon Hara.
Akev is the root of
Yaakov as well, right? Mm-hmm. So the idea is, we don't necessarily know which sins God counts as the really big ones, right? We don't necessarily know. Maybe God is thinking, I know you're probably not going to murder today. I'm watching and waiting to see if you're going to say grace after meals, right? That's the one maybe God cares. We don't know. We have no idea. Therefore, they all should be equal in our eyes. Any sin that we sin, we are separated from God with an infinite separation.
Of course, now there's a big difference between those two, because one is a performance of a positive mitzvah. Mm-hmm. This is a simple blessing. Right. And the commission of a negative
mitzvah. And there's 1,000 other ways we could probably, chop it up and examine it. The fact of the matter is, God's judging us based on us, right? If I'm not tempted to sin, or if I'm not tempted to murder somebody today, Baruch Hashem, it's been a good day, then...
For just about everybody here.
Right.
That's the case.
Then God's probably not looking at that one very closely, because he knows I'm probably not going to do that today, right? How focused I am in my prayer, how, that's the stuff he is looking at, because that's going to be my battleground today. Mm-hmm. As such, the spirit of folly will always come and say, the stuff that you're struggling on, you don't have to go all the way. This is the same thing as a mullik, right? To cool us down. Mm-hmm. The spirit of folly is going to tell us you're not going to be separated from God, so go ahead and do it. It's fine. And that's, again, folly, shtus. It's ridiculous. Shota, the fool.
Oh, stush? Is that it?
Shota means fool. So ruach shtut means spirit of folly.
That certainly sounds like a Yiddish word. Shtut.
Shota, I believe, is Hebrew, isn't it?
Well, when you got the SHT right together there, the SHT, that sounds very Yiddish. Doesn't it?
Where's Bubby when you need her?
Right.
I mean, if you open up Joyce to Yiddish, that section's a big section. Right? You know what I'll just reread that last sentence. As for me, I have no desire to be such a fool as to deny the truth. Mm-hmm. Which essentially this is in a more positive way, that's a negative way.
By the way,
saying the same thing. I'm in Psalm 73, verse 28. As for me, the nearness of God is my good.
There you go.
Okay, that's the positive way of saying this.
Just wanted to point out to you, I believe, let's see, that's Shota right there, right?
Oh, okay.
So, fool, right? I'm not going to be that fool. For me, I'm going to be with God. And this is the speech that the Beinoni snaps at himself, snaps at his heart, so that his brain should have control, so his godly soul should have control, so that he doesn't sin, so that he remains a Beinoni and he doesn't separate himself from God. Chas v'sholom. Kosh?
Kosh.
Shota is good to learn Hebrew as we go.
Absolutely. There's no better way to learn Hebrew than by studying Torah.
It is different, however, with something that is entrusted to the heart, namely that the evil should actually be despised in the heart and abhorred with absolute hatred, or even not quite so absolutely.
So what are we talking about?
Hate it, even if you can't hate it with all your being, right?
Right. We talked about this little chart of the tzaddikim before. That's what I'm showing, right? Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're 100% tzaddik, you have an absolute zero love of evil, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you love evil all the way, you're not a tzaddik at all.
Mm-hmm. Or say it, hatred of it. You have an absolute
hatred, disgust, right?
Yes.
This is repulsive to you. And again, when we say evil, we mean negativity, right? What's the Kabbalistic word for negativity? Sitra Achra, right? The other side. What does the Sitra Achra include? All four klipot. The three impure huskin shells, as well as the regular everyday stuff. So the permissible stuff like eating and sleeping, the perfect tzaddik is disgusted by these things. The whole world is a giant toilet for the tzaddik. It's all functionality. I need to do this so that I can serve God soon, right? Hillel would forget to eat.
Would he only... Okay, that's taking it like a little bit further than I actually envisioned it.
Sure.
Or would it be that he is disgusted if those
are used for
natural things are used for rather than for
we're
good?
filming here. We're filming here.
Hey. Oh.
Anyways, thank you for that, Reb Shmuel. As you were saying?
Would it be more so that his disgust is really only if those natural things, instead of
used to serve
being
God,
used to serve God, are turned
to selfishness?
Yes.
Absolutely true. Absolutely true.
Because the Baal Shem Tov didn't despise, like, l'chaim.
Right. He wouldn't despise the concept of eating, but at the same point...
Or drinking.
But he wouldn't run to it, right? They wouldn't...
it wouldn't be like he waits all day and says, what am I going to have for dinner? Or he's all excited. He switches all his plans.
Doesn't occupy any space in his brain whatsoever.
It's something he does because he needs to do it.
So it's
but
not
it's
so much that he despises it.
No.
He's not focused on it.
At all.
Right.
At all. Like Hillel would forget to eat. It's like, gets to a point like, oh no, I forgot. I need to eat or I'm going to die.
Yeah,
right?
See, since these are natural things,
you need them.
Right.
You need them.
And it's a
Really,
blessing to do them.
Mm-hmm.
It's just your focus is somewhere else.
Sure.
Really understanding that focus on that's what I wanted.
That was good.
This cannot be obtained, that is the absolute hatred of evil, truly and sincerely, except through great and intense love of God, the kind of ecstatic love and divine bliss which is akin to the world to come.
So we've spoken before. This 4 levels of service to God: the lower fear, the lower love, the higher love, the higher fear. And we've said that you can attain this lower fear. It's fear of punishment. You can attain this lower love. It's love of yourself. I know that all the good things happen to me because of God, so I'm going to butter up on God, and I'll get more good things. This is a beautiful service. There's the higher fear, which is the highest of all of these, and that's something you can attain through years of discipline and practice of doing the mitzvahs and studying Torah. But the higher love, this love of God for who He is not something that's accessible to us. It has to be given as a gift from God to us as a result of us already mastering the higher fear. So that's what we spoke about before regarding this concept.
And the next sentence continues off that.
Right.
Regarding this intense love of God, akin to the world to come, of this experience the Rabbi said, you shall see your world in your lifetime.
Taste of the world to come.
And it didn't, again, it's cut off. It's not finished quote. So I don't know.
It's in the Talmud Tractate Brachot. It's like page 17, side A.
Was there anything more to add to that?
I think we got the gist off of that. Okay. The idea is that you get a taste of
the
world to come.
This time we did.
Yeah, this time. In this world is not the world of reward, right? Mm-hmm. That higher love of God is absolutely reward level, right? It's called the love of delights. So that higher level of love, being given it as a gift in this world, is like literally you're getting a piece of your world to come. You're getting like a portion that you can experience and enjoy now, today. And that's abnormal, right? This is a time for work, later is a time for reward.
And it goes on, and not every man can attain this state.
Right.
For this is in the nature of a gracious reward.
Right.
As it is written, I will make you your priestly office a rewarding service, as is explained elsewhere.
So the Alter Rebbe is kind of comparing this higher love being given as a gift, similar to the gift that the priest was given, that you're going to be a priest forever. You're Cohen.
You will not receive any portion in the land. I am your portion.
Right.
you get to serve with me.
Absolutely, and that's this week's Torah portion that we're studying Bahaloscha. That's exactly what Aaron said after the 12 tribes, the 12 leaders brought their gifts. Aaron said after that, what about me? I don't get to give a gift? And what does God respond through Moshe? You bring the menorah every day. You work in you're living here. They're visiting here, bringing a gift. You
know. The Levites. When I was actually the Levites, wasn't it? No, it was all 12 tribes. But the Levites actually did then tithe from what tithe they received.
That's right. They took a 10 of their 10. 10th, rather.
And which is similar to what we've done.
Absolutely true. That's what we have to do.
Let's see. Therefore, Job said, "You have created."
This is one of the questions that the. Sorry to cut you off. Mm-hmm. This is one of those questions that the Alter Rebbe brought up in the beginning. He's like, okay, you say a Beinoni is someone with half mitzvahs, half sins. Like, that's how it's used colloquially. Mm. And it can't be because Rabbi said, for example, a Beinoni. Another thing he brought as a scriptural proof to question that understanding of the Beinoni is this verse from Job, from Eov. Eov said, you have created tzaddikim and Rishayim. You've created righteous men and wicked men. That totally flies in the face of the idea of free choice, doesn't it? The Torah says...
Well, that kind of indicates or precludes a predestined...
yeah, and I'll just... So, yes, but not to get muddied in those waters, because that whole idea of predestination brings...
Not teaching you that.
We're not teaching you. That brings all kinds of buzzword stuff that we're not trying to address. What we are trying to address is the idea that it says in Pirkei Avot, I believe, in the Ethics of Our Fathers, that God chooses if you're going to be tall or short, if you're going to be rich or poor, if you're going to be short, or what I already said that.
Fat or skinny.
Whatever. He chooses those things, right? You want to decide you want to make $1 million maybe it's not in the cards for you, right? Mm-hmm. And that's fine. That said, what is our choice? Our moral decisions. This is what God allows us. The fear of heaven is our choice.
But will it wreck some great
Eternal
plan?
If I was just blessed with winning the lotto real quick. As it turns out, it would, right? Because God needs you in your service, especially as we're going to see in chapter 15.
He has made us and gifted us specifically and purposefully for our place.
Right, and only we could do our job. And if we had different tools, we would not be able to do our job. We'd be overcome with the tools, right? Mm-hmm. Or other things. So, the one thing that is under our control is the fear of heaven, our moral choices.
It just reminds me of a song, Swinging in Solomon's Shoes. I've mentioned this before.
Oh,
but here, even what was called the wisest man who's ever lived or ever will,
tripped.
He took his eyes off the blesser,
right,
onto the blessings.
It's a huge problem, and that's could be a real stumbling block for anyone's divine service. If you come to a point where you're more overcome and you're more concerned about the blessings and the physicality than the spirituality. In fact, that's exactly our subject matter here, right? Mm-hmm. It's so easy to get caught up in the physicality. Mm-hmm. So the only thing that we do really truly have free choice on, whether you chose a red shirt or a blue shirt, really doesn't matter. It's our moral choices. God, then there's maybe how many during a day? Moral choices. Like seven or 10 maybe good moral choices a day that you're really presented with. The rest of the time is fluff, right? 1 day out of 7, you give it to God, right? 10% of your money out of the 100%, that's what you give to God. So also during our day, there's a couple of moments where they're going to be real tests, and you get to choose. Are you going to make the moral, godly choice here, or are you going to make the selfish animal choice here? And we do this every day.
That's the somewhat the concept between early morning prayer.
Yeah,
it's the best part of the day.
Yeah, right. This is your shot, right? So why don't you start it off well before you go down this downward spiral or this negative snowball, right? So, if the only thing we do have control over is our moral choices, whether we sin or do mitzvahs, then what does Job mean by saying, God, you created tzaddikim who don't even have a desire to sin, and you created Rishayim, people who are already sinning? I mean, it seems like it totally takes the free choice out of it. What did Job mean? Let's hear the Alter Rebbe's answer.
Or should we read the footnote? The category of tzaddik is therefore created,
okay,
is i.e. given to a very few by divine grace.
Mm-hmm. We talked about that in chapter
not
12.
Not easily attainable by one's
10,
own effort. Hence it is possible for Job to say, you have created righteous men. In other words, he created a few very righteous men who could be called tzaddik.
So God put, and what did we say in the beginning of this chapter? By the way, we didn't read the introduction from our handy-dandy map of Tanya, so I guess now's a good enough time to do it. The introduction is, every Jew can be a Beinoni. A person cannot force himself to truly despise evil and become a tzaddik. We can't do that. Mm-hmm. However, we can control our garments and be a Beinoni, right? We can all be a Beinoni. So if we said in the beginning that we can't necessarily be a tzaddik, that's what Job means right here. Right?
That's what the footnote says.
No, it's not in the cards. Not all of us are born with the potential to be a tzaddik who literally despises evil and physicality now. That's not going to be most of our lot. So don't get so hung up on that. And later in the Tanya, the Alter Rebbe is going to say about a Beinoni who struggles and he fights every day for 15 years, 25 years, 55 years. And he's still tempted by these stupid sins, and he says, God, why am I still tempted? Isn't it enough? I serve you every day. What does the Alter Rebbe say? He says, fire your words to this Beinoni. He says, learn your place. You're not a tzaddik. You're a Beinoni. Your job is to fight this fight. It's a holy service. Right. Recognize it, deal with it. This is your challenge, right? And as we're going to learn, I believe hopefully in chapter 15 we'll touch on it. This is one of the, if not the highest service of a human to God, is fighting every day and winning. The tzaddik doesn't fight, right?
It is also found in Tikkunei Zohar, which, help us, what is that? Tikkunei?
It's a section in the Zohar.
It's a section in the Zohar.
The introduction of the Tikkunei Zohar is the famous prayer, Patach Eliyahu, Elijah's famous prayer.
Okay. All it says is introduction and footnote. That It is found in Tikkunei Zohar that the souls of the people of Israel, in the souls, are many kinds of graduations and distinctions.
Gradations.
There are pious men, strong men, who gain mastery over their nature. There are scholars of the Torah, prophets,
Masters
and
of the
so
prophets, masters of the Talmud, masters of Mishnah.
There are Sadiqim and so forth. Note there.
So some people are destined, if you want to use that word. Some people we're all dealt a hand, right? God gives us all a certain collection of attributes. He decides that some of us like me should have a shiny head, and other people should have beautiful flowing curls and locks and stuff.
And the rest he covered with hair.
Yeah, right? He decided some people should have perfect skulls and the rest of them should be covered with hair. God designed us all how we are for a reason, and we're going to need that to be able to accomplish our purpose, our tikkun, whatever that is, okay? So some people, they're going to be masters of prophets, let's say here, for example, right? These people are just going to be in those prophets, and they're going to know everything that they say, backwards and forwards. They'll have it memorized. They'll know the commentaries, the remes, the drush,
the address,
midrashim. They'll know it all, right? They'll know it all. Earlier we talked about the spiritual root of our soul for different people, and some people are rooted in a more Kabbalistic end of the spectrum, and if it's not Kabbalah, they don't want to hear it. Right? Other people, they hear Kabbalah and they're like, it's way too much for me. Right? I just want Peshat. I want to know Moshe was a guy with 2 eyes, 2 ears, and a nose, and he put his wife and kids on a donkey. That's what I want to hear, and leave me alone. Different people are different, and you need that cocktail, that makeup, that hand that you're dealt to be able to do God's will for you in your place where he puts you, right? As such, if God needs you to be a tzaddik, he probably made you with the ability and the potential to become a tzaddik one day. If he didn't, then you don't have it, and that's fine, right? So that's what Job meant when he said, you created tzaddikim, people with this potential, and you created rishoyim, people who were tempted. And that includes both Beinanim and people who fail.
You know, for, on the note of the secrets in the Torah, I have found, and so I would direct anybody to the Shabbat meal table prayers.
Oh,
There's
sure.
3 of them in the Siddurim.
The Arizal's hymns.
Yeah.
Very good, right? Very good. Very powerful as well.
Now we can understand the redundancy of the oath.
And we started chapter 1 with, this is the first phrase. This is the first thing we started chapter 1. This is the first thing we opened Tanya with, was this oath.
Be righteous and not wicked.
This is the oath that is administered to a new soul before he's born into this world. The angel gives him a zetz, right? And he says, be a tzaddik and don't be a rasha. Okay. What does that mean exactly?
Well, it
Let's
says
listen.
now we understand the redundancy of the oath, be righteous, which is unintelligible at first glance.
Right.
Since he is warned, be righteous, where is the need to put him on oath again, that he shall not be wicked?
What's with the dual expression?
The answer is that inasmuch as not everyone is privileged to become a tzaddik, nor has a person the full advantage of choice in this matter to experience true delight in God and to actually and truly abhor evil, he is consequently adjured a second time, you shall, at any rate, not be wicked.
Just don't be a rasha, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
in other words, if you can't be perfectly righteous, then
right.
just don't be wicked, right?
So let's say that God
Can't be a tzaddik, don't be a rasha.
Right.
Again, i.e., be a Benoni.
At least be a Benoni, right? Mm-hmm. So that's the dual expression of this oath that's administered to it. You need both parts. You absolutely need both parts. Because if you say to somebody, be a tzaddik, and he wasn't born with the spiritual potential to become a tzaddik, or he never actualized it, it still leaves him wanting in the area of, well, if you don't have the potential to be a tzaddik, then don't fall into your animal nature, right? At least don't do that. So you really need both expressions.
Here the right of choice and freedom is extended to every person to check the drive of his heart's desire and to conquer his nature, so that he shall not be wicked even for a moment throughout his life, whether in the realm of turn away from evil or in that of do good, there being no good other than Torah.
Ein tov ela Torah.
That is the study of Torah, which balances them all.
Keneged kulam.
So here we have the ultimates of positive and negative mitzvah.
Right there, right? So, One quick question here. We talked about it before. What's the secret weapon here? It was alluded to at the beginning of this sentence, this long sentence. What's the secret weapon that the human is given to be able to not be a Russia?
The right of choice and freedom.
Okay. How do we access that?
Overcoming our evil nature.
With
By
emotion, right?
By conquering our nature?
To check the drive of his heart.
Check the
right?
drive.
Who's doing the checking? The godly soul centered in the brain, headquartered in the brain. Mind over matter, that's our secret weapon, right? Mm-hmm. Our head is over our heart. We could want it really bad. We could be pressured socially where there's other people around us saying, it doesn't even matter, just eat the ham sandwich. Mm-hmm. And we have the power to be like, I know it looks wonderful. No. Right?
No. It's not that wonderful.
It looks fantastic. I hope you enjoy it. No. Right? And that's our power. That's what we can actually do. Now, let's just take a reality check pill really quick here. How easy is that? To just say no.
For some people, very easy. For some people, very hard.
It's usually pretty hard for most people, right?
And then there's other factors too.
That's why it's hard.
Not always the same. Sometimes you are easy, sometimes harder.
Right. And that's the idea when we're in prayer, right? It's easy to say no, right? If you're in a congregation with people and the Torahs are going around and everybody's, kissing their tefillin and everything, it's pretty hard to sin in that spot. When you're in your 3-martini lunch where they're passing around the ham sandwiches, it's tougher, right? Especially with social pressure.
When they just laid one in your plate.
Yeah. Or especially, what if they just serve it? You know? And that's such a huge factor here, social pressure, you know? What if you're in a place, and I've heard people tell false, incorrect, anti-Torah teachings regarding some of the...
Many of them out there, right?
Regarding some of the epistles, specifically Galatians, where people say, and other places...
All food is good.
And they say, it's better that you just shouldn't upset people because God is love, right? Because God is going to throw out his Torah for this person, right? So let's say you're in a situation and they're serving and they set the plate right in front of you and it's got the little pig's feet or whatever right there, right? And they say, eat, it's delicious. Okay, maybe...
Or the shrimp tail sticking out of
the shrimp tail sticking out of the sushi. And they gave it to you as a gift and it's free. And you don't want to insult them.
We've actually been in that position.
I know.
Because the owner of Yeshua loves us when we come in, and he has several times says, this is on the house. He's brought it to us.
So what do? Do you sit there and you eat it? I mean, I'm not trying to hone in on anything specifically. I wanted to keep it hypothetical so it's easier.
Oh,
Let's go back to the pig feet. They got the pork rinds on your plate, and they're like, here, is it the right Bible thing to do? Is it the godly thing to do to go ahead and eat it and smile with these people so that you don't hurt their feelings? Or is it the right and proper thing to refuse it? What's right? What's godly? What's the mitzvah here?
There's what? That's some water that is must be carefully tread, because you do not be stumbling.
You don't want to put a stumbling
positive or minus to anybody.
That's right.
And that doesn't mean that you should imbibe in.
You shouldn't eat it, right?
Right?
The answer is you shouldn't eat it, right? You shouldn't eat it. Should you make a whole stink? Oh, I can't believe you insulted me so much with your paganism. No. You certainly should not do that, right? You need to be graceful about this, right? We pray every day that God should give us grace in these situations. But the fact of the matter is, God already told us what he wants us to do in that situation. And it's not sin because it makes other people feel good. Other people pressuring you is one of Satan's biggest tools to be able to get you to sin. The answer is no. Just say no. And again, that's not easy, right? That's hard. However, we can do it if our head is over our heart.
You spot a Shabbos goy and tried to bless them.
What happens if you have...
Right?
Let's say you have, striking closer to home here, let's say you have some well-meaning relatives who have some well-meaning cows that were slaughtered by non-well-meaning, non-Jewish people who didn't ritually slaughter, and you have this meat that it's not exactly kosher, but it's beef, what do you do with it, right? The best thing to do is what you said. You should donate it to charity, to people who don't need to keep kosher.
This is kind of what I was
That's the best thing that you could possibly do.
Bless them.
So, again, are these easy things? Absolutely not. They're very difficult, especially in the interpersonal relations. I mean, it could be very, very tough. God should give us the strength that it should be easy for us the next time we have a situation like that. Or maybe not bring them up again. The fact of the matter is, the Torah is always the Torah, and God's never going to go against the Torah. So what is the major tool we're given to be able to say no in these really hard circumstances? Our head is over our heart. Mind over matter. I know I feel all kinds of things. However, my answer is no. I'm sorry. Right? You don't have to be a nudnik about it. You just don't do it.
Don't be a puss either.
Yeah. Exactly. That's all I'm saying. All right.
Excuse the expression.
It's all right. Where are we?
Okay, nevertheless, a person must set aside specific periods in which to commune with his soul in order to cultivate the abhorrence of evil, as, for example, reminding himself of the admonition of our sages that a woman is a vessel full of filth. Well, that's kind of some strong wordage.
Let's discuss it a little bit, and in like manner. So what the Alter Rebbe is saying here is, you want to be one of these people, okay, maybe you were given the potential to be a tzaddik. I don't know. How do I know? Maybe you are. Maybe all of us here are potential tzaddikim. Bezrat Hashem, right? How do we access that? How do we actualize it? I mean, very, 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 very few people are born perfect tzaddikim. Most of them have to go through some kind of process to develop that. Remember our chart, right? You're starting to master. Oh, you don't even want evil anymore, right? At all anymore. How do you climb that ladder? How do you go up and become more of a tzaddik?
Rung by rung.
Rung by rung? What do the rungs look like?
What are the rungs?
Torah,
mitzvahs. Good Torah point for you on principle.
This focus in this sentence is to set aside times to commune with your soul.
Think about it,
to
right?
cultivate
you need to meditate.
The abhorrence of evil.
So you need to...
In other words, you actually talk to God. Talk to
God? You look at yourself? You have a frank conversation between you, yourself, and God? Hey guys, right? Probably not like that. But you need to think about how much you love God. We're going to talk about meditating about God's greatness later. Here we're talking about meditating about yourself. Okay, what do you really want? What's our big sin? Let's go with the ham sandwich, right? The ham sandwich, and you look at it, and it looks delicious, and this is where the Ruach Shtus, the spirit of folly, is going to come in, and it's going to say it is delicious. And it won't even separate you from God, so go for it, right? We need to think about, where is that sin going to get me? I love the way Rabbi Gordon put it.
All in a handbasket? I'm sorry.
Where's that ham sandwich, if you eat it, going to be in 6 hours or 12 hours?
In the poop.
It's going to be in the toilet, right? In the shirut team, it's going to be in the toilets.
Or the new covenant would say the trough.
The train, right? A barrel of filth.
Mm-hmm.
So
a lot of words going on here.
The one that the Alter Rebbe is bringing up here is what is the most common and the most difficult temptation for most men in the world, everywhere?
Is sexual temptation.
Sexual, with the intimacy with women, right? We think about it at inappropriate times all the time, and it's very tough to get that out of our mind once it's there, right? How do you possibly do it once you've gone a little too far?
But the wordage here indicates that...
So let's talk about what the wordage means.
The vessel seems to be indicating that the vessel is the source of that filth, rather than the...
Look at the footnote.
The footnote, which is number,
16, right at the end there. We were talking about women, and this says nothing negative about women at all.
Oh, no, it doesn't.
Nothing at all.
This is talking about the nidah.
We're talking about, think about something that's maybe not so pleasurable.
Which you're not even supposed to sit on what she sits on.
Right. Well, aside from all of that, find something about your desire that you have right now, and find some way to think negatively about it. Anything, right? If you want to, if you're thinking intimacy with women and stuff like that, think about a menstrual period, right? That's going to disrupt that thought process a little bit, right? If you're lusting over this ham sandwich, think about the toilet, right? Because that's where it's going to be eventually. Find ways that you can talk to yourself and break that hot desire, right? And then focus, train yourself, repetition, discipline, desiring godliness, and despising physicality things, right? it's an amazingly good practice, and we'll talk about it later. If you want something very bad, excellent holy training to put it off for an hour. Whatever it is.
Yeah, good idea.
If you're hungry, study Torah for an hour, then eat.
That's not going to do very much.
Every little bit helps. It's
That's what
time
you
to
gotta do.
open the
You
window.
heard about the Jewish man in the deli. He says, I'll take 4 slices of that fish.
Okay.
The guy behind the counter says, sir, that's not fish, it's ham.
Oh.
The Jewish man says, did I ask you to name the fish?
Did I ask you to name the fish?
Oh, Lord. God help it.
Oy vey. So find a way that you can manipulate it in your mind in such a way that you are moving closer to God and away from physicality, materialism, for selfish purposes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what the Alter Rebbe is saying here. Again, nothing negative about women, nothing negative about food, right? We all need these things.
Well,
we all
on
are
the
these
surface,
things.
the statement seemed to be, the footnote made it,
A little bit clearer.
clear. Yeah.
The next sentence should help as well.
So too, all dainties and delicacies turn into a vessel full of filth.
It's going to end up in the latrine.
That's what you were
Right.
saying. Likewise, in regard to all pleasures of this world, the wise man foresees what becomes of them, for in the end they rot and become worms and dung.
So, when we talk about our friends over at the Kabbalah Center, right? What do they always say? Consciousness is everything, right? They make a very strong distinction, and they hone in on the difference between short-term and long-term fulfillment, right?
Mm.
If I eat this ham sandwich, what's the expression? The dieters use it. A moment on the lips, a month on the hips, right? Right?
Okay.
I remember the first time I ever stepped on an elliptical, and it's got that little calorie counter on there for you. So you're like, you're doing your thing, and you see the calories burn, and you're like, okay, this is great. And like I did it for like a half hour, an hour, or something like that, and the calorie count was up to like 200. And I was like, 200 calories? I've been doing this long? That's not even a Snickers bar, right? I was so upset. I was like, oy vey.
So upset.
So,
See how much work each Snicker bar is?
right. I mean, it's kind of an issue. As such, look for short-term and long-term fulfillment, right? It's going to be wonderful if I put this Snickers bar in my mouth. However, where is that going to get me long-term? Is it going to get me closer to God or further away from God? That question is what tzaddikim ask, right? That question is what the righteous people ask. The rest of us are like, oh, cookie, right? And then afterwards, like, oh, no, right?
And,
So
and
avoid
the
that,
bottom
oh,
line is
no.
if it doesn't bring us closer,
What are you engaging
then,
in it for?
Then
What's the point?
it's the same as if it.
It's
Drive you
almost the
farther
same
away.
as if it were a sin, right?
Mhm.
Because it's not carrying you closer to God. So why, you have 70, 80, 120 years here on this planet, whatever it's going to be. Why would you ever waste any time not getting closer to God?
Mm.
It's
Yeah.
not like we were Adam anymore and have 930 years to get it right.
That's
Chip,
right.
chop, chip.
Chip, chip, chip.
Where am I? Likewise, in regard to all pleasure. Did I read that? No.
Yeah, you did. Conversely, we're at.
Or did I only? Oh, I only got
Wouldn't hurt to read it again.
part of it. Oh, conversely, let him delight and rejoice in God.
Right.
Well, that's a good place to start. By reflecting on the greatness of the Ein Sof, blessed is He.
Mhm.
Blessed be He. To the best of His capacity, he may well realize that he cannot attain to this degree with a full measure of truth except in illusion.
Mhm.
Nevertheless, he should do his part in an effort to uphold the oath and minister to him, be righteous, and God will do as he sees fit.
So that's pretty much just capping off what we just said. We're going to move into a new concept now. Why don't we read it first, and then we'll talk about it, I guess.
In the middle of the paragraph is a new concept?
Yeah.
Well, I was just kind of going back and looking at
Thoughts?
that part that he cannot attain to this degree with a full measure in complete truth. He can do it in illusion.
Right, so we talked about that.
And it is, in other words, though, he can't embrace fully the status of a tzaddik.
Well, okay, we're talking about meditating on God, and like we said, and don't think about the ham sandwich and how it's going to be good. Think about how it's going to be in the toilet, and then think about how good God is and how you want to get close to Him. That's just what we just said.
There you go.
However, when you have a regular person like any of us, and we're thinking and meditating about God and how great He is and how close we want to get to Him, how is that similar and different from someone like the Rebbe, right? Or the Alter Rebbe. When he's meditating about God, it's like, whoa, the heavens open and stuff, right? He can think and meditate about godliness and getting close to God in such a way more profound and true way than we can, right? That's why it says each person to his ability, right?
That's right.
Whatever we can do to our capacity, that's what we should do, right? And if it's not going to be the full truth of the Alter Rebbe, that's fine. It's going to be true for you, and it'll get you out of this situation.
Because we're not all on the same rung.
And that's fine. And that's exactly the way God designed it.
Furthermore, his habitude, there's a
Habits.
word for you, his habitude reigns supreme in any sphere and becomes second nature.
Teva Sheni. Beautiful, beautiful concept here.
Teva
So,
Sheni?
Teva Sheni, second nature. Second nature.
Mm-hmm.
So we are born with things that we naturally are going to do, and then we develop habits when we're very young, right? Please, thank you. When we're very young. And those habits become who we are. It's our nature. This guy's always going to say, when you're done talking to him, this guy's always going to say, God bless you, right? It's just what he does. So let's read a little bit further and discuss this concept of habitual nature and redesigning our habitual nature to form a Teva Sheni, a second nature.
It's kind of like conditioning.
Conditioning, beautiful word. Discipline.
Discipline.
21 days a habit makes, right? Or 180 days, God help us.
And there's a lot of like devotionals out there from some great men of God, of the Christian faith, who talk about those disciplines.
So
time,
important.
And being the chief of being time with God.
Sure. Like kind of like we said earlier, disciplining yourself in the permissible is a concept we're going to hit hard later in Tanya. If you're really hungry right now, study Torah for an hour, then eat, right? It's great training. You'll be hungrier, you'll be holier. It's great training, Just because the meat is kosher, you don't have to finish the cow, right? All right.
Therefore, if he accustoms himself to despise evil, it will to some extent become despicable in truth.
He'll develop a second nature.
Similarly, when he accustoms himself to gladden his heart in God through reflection on his greatness, for self-impulsion induces heavenly inspiration.
So that's what we're saying.
Self-impulsion induces heavenly inspiration.
If you spend time meditating about God and godliness, you're going to become a more godly person. I love the way Rabbi Gordon puts it. If you watch a movie every night, you're going to become a movie critic, right? If you study Torah every day, you're going to be a Torah scholar. It's just the way it works. What you engage in is who you will eventually become.
And one has eternal value and reward, and the other fleeting.
So true. Short-term versus long-term fulfillment. Where's this going to get you in 1,000 years? Very little we do in our earthly world is going to get us very far in 1,000 years. You make all the money in the world, it's going to be gone in 1,000 years. However, you do one mitzvah and it lasts all eternity, right? Kind of changes the scales a little bit. So if you can take your time, and that's a good place to start, or stop rather, for right now. If you can take your time and change your nature, build a new habit, spend time thinking about the negativity of physicality, spend time thinking about the greatness of God and how we want to get close to Him, you will change the way you think. If you spend time speaking about the negativity of physical pleasures for selfish purposes, and you spend time speaking about the goodness of chasing mitzvahs and chasing God, you're going to change the habit of your speech. If you spend time doing mitzvahs and avoiding sins, you're going to change your habits of your actions, right? That's the way humans are designed. We're designed to change like that. And I'll give you a perfect example. Let's say there's an individual, right? And maybe his entire life he wasn't keeping kosher 100%. And at one point he decided that he wanted to keep kosher 100%. So, let's take milk and meat for an example. Before this gentleman, he would look at food and he would eat the food, right? Like a human, like a goy. Later, he realizes you're not supposed to mix milk and meat as a Jew. Oh, okay, so I won't do that. And realizes that he slips up all the time. All the time. There's butter in everything, right? And you just mess up a bunch. And maybe you feel down about that. A little time goes by, what happens? He checks everything for butter now, right? Everything he checks before he eats it. Anytime before he puts food in his mouth now, this hypothetical individual, he's going to think about what's in it and what am I going to be doing later, because I don't want to mix it in less than however many minutes. So anytime he looks at stuff now,
I didn't think
that's
about
his nature.
butter at first, so it was brought up, and then you're right. This is exactly what happened.
This is exactly what happened. So
and then I says, "Hey, look what I found."
Yes.
That's a beautiful, perfect example of changing our habit, right?
Right.
So now you look at food like God looks at food, like in a godly way, right? You look at it, is this going to help me for right now, or is it going to hurt me for later? You weigh it first, right? And that's how God wants his people to look at food. Rabbi Kaplan now is doing this amazing series, which he's kind of done earlier, but now it's kind of revamped and it's beautiful, about the holiness of food and how everything in the Bible is, food is the quintessential mitzvah. What's the first thing God told Adam and Eve in the garden? Eat this, don't eat that. Cain and Abel, sacrifices. Noah, he cuts off the ark, he plants a vineyard, and he can eat animals now. Abraham did all his work over food. Isaac, bring me meal so I can give you the blessing. Jacob with the pot of lentil soup. Everything is about food in the Bible. So if you can master that, this is the prototypical mitzvah. As such, God wants people, when they look at food, not to be like, oh, cookie. He wants to be like, is this what I need to serve God best now? That's what should be going through your head, not ooh, right? And that's something that we can easily change through a little bit of discipline to develop a new habit, a shevatani, a second nature. Or a teva sheni, excuse me.
Yeah, I was just flipping in. I was in my Bible and just get banging.
It's very good indeed.
Came across a little footnote I had. I think it was that where about the blessings,
At the end of Leviticus.
Rebecca and
okay.
Rachel.
Sure.
No,
Tolda,
Rebecca,
Parshat Tolda.
Right?
Yeah, Rivka, she gave Yaakov the clothes.
And she says, fetch me 2 kids,
Goats.
yearling goats, and I'll prepare them like your dad likes.
Right.
The guy's not going to eat.
120-year-old man, right?
Even a small 1-year lamb, he's not going to eat 2 of them.
Yeah.
Or goats.
There's obviously packed with symbolism there, right?
I thought, having eaten fresh deer, I know what the very, very best is. And I'd said this to you before.
It's the tongue. No, I'm just
not the tongue, but the
backstrap.
tenderloin, and tenderloin on the inside of the backbone, and on the outside you have 2 pieces of meat as well, called the backstrap. But they're the same kind of meat. So we're talking tenderloin meat, and if she took it out of two goats and made it, for him, that's probably what she would have been able to get to those really, even very easily on a freshly butchered, slaughtered goat.
Sure.
And prepare those, whereas it would take hours to roast a whole goat, even a small one.
Sure.
And so
remember,
my reasoning was, if she was serving him the best of his favorite, that's probably what she went and grabbed.
That's what I would do. That's good.
And as you were talking about the transformation and the change, I thought of Romans chapter 12. Therefore I exhort you, Shaul says, brothers, to offer yourself as a living sacrifice, as a sacrifice, living and set apart for God. Skipping just a little bit, do not let yourselves be conformed to the standards of this world, Yalom Hazeh. Instead, keep letting yourselves be transformed by the renewing of your minds, so that you will know what God wants and will agree that what he wants is good, satisfying, and able to succeed.
Very true. So how do we transform ourselves? Spent a whole chapter talking about it. 3 words.
Forming new habits, discipline, overcoming arguing nature, studying Torah.
3 words. Torah.
Those are all right.
Torah, mitzvot, and prayer.
Tefillah? Yeah, that's not bad. That's not bad. Mind over matter.
Okay.
We are made upright with our heads over our hearts. That's our secret weapon, right? Mm-hmm. We can actually say no. Is it easy to say no? Absolutely not. It's almost never easy to say no, but we totally can. What's the ultimate reward for a person, potentially, maybe, if they were not born with the potential to become a tzaddik? What could happen if they spend their entire lives doing this tzaddik training, learning to hate evil, and learning to love only God?
It could be a Beinani.
Well, you're already a Beinani if you're doing this work, probably. What the answer is our next paragraph here, if you want to start. I'm just going to grab my Haggadah here. Maxwell House
and we
Haggadah.
just left off with self-impulsion induces heavenly inspiration. In other words, setting our heart and mind on God is what induces us for this transformation.
Absolutely true. Mind over matter.
With-
Spending time and thinking about it.
With all that, perhaps a spirit from above will descend upon him, and he will merit something of the spirit, ruach, that is rooted in some tzaddik that will attach itself to him, so that he may serve God with true joy, as is written, "Rejoice in the Lord, you righteous." Then will in truth
And he
be
really will.
fulfilled in him the avowed oath, "Be righteous."
Be a tzaddik, right? So let's say you're a person and you're born with the cards. You're born with the potential to become a tzaddik. Baruch Hashem. You started off as a Beinani. You did the work, right? You started hating evil. You became a tzaddik. Baruch Hashem, you did it. What if you're an individual who was born without that potential? You worked for 35 years, 55 years being a Beinani, and you're a Beinani, and you're never going to be able to get higher than a Beinani. That's fine, right?
Here seems to indicate
that's fine.
that if we truly strive,
There's a
that
possible,
God might-
maybe rare
Right.
chance that the Holy One, blessed be He, is going to
merit him with the spirit or ruach of a tzaddik that will attach itself to him.
Absolutely true. Just looking at the Hebrew here real quick. But in any case, this is the opposite of the concept of a dibuk, right? Dibuk is a lost or a wandering soul who attaches himself to a person, makes him look crazy and possessed and stuff. A little bit different than the possession we hear about in the Bible. Demons don't possess people anymore. That was done away with a long time ago by great men. Nowadays, and it's also very rare that you would find a human soul that attaches itself to another person. This is the holy part of that. This is the opposite of that. This is the flip side of that coin, that God can take a spirit of a tzaddik and implant it into a regular Beinani, and now that Beinani becomes a tzaddik because he was given this gift again, right? It's rare, but it can happen. Where's a wonderful example we hear about it, as far as I can tell? Open up your Maxwell House Haggadah. I'm just kidding. Any Haggadah works. Any kosher Haggadah that has all the words. We hear about this special night, the special Passover, where these 5 great rabbis, Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Yoshua, Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Elazar, and Rabbi Tarfon, they all met in Bnei Brak, and they had Pesach together. Baruch Hashem, very nice. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, Rabbi Elazar the son of Azariah, said, "Note that I am like a man of 70 years of age." And the sages comment on the commentaries, they all talk about, what do you mean I am like 70 years old? Do you know how old Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah was at this time? 18 years old. 18 years old. Rabbi Elazar, at the time, Rabban Gamliel was in charge. He was the Nasi, or he was the leader, right? Of the Torah leadership, the Av Beit Din, whatever he was.
The school.
And he was a little harsh, right? Very harsh. And people weren't tolerating that very well. So they asked, and if I'm messing up this story a little bit, please forgive me, but they asked Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, you are leadership quality. Would you co-lead with Rabban Gamliel? And you'll be a little chesed to his gavur, right? You'll soften him up. It'll be good for everybody. And Rabbi Elazar said, let me go home and ask my wife, right? He's a very good Jew. So he goes home, he asks his wife, and his wife says, what do you mean? You have a black beard. They'll never respect you. Oh, okay. So he says, I guess no. He's 18 years old, right? So he goes to sleep. He wakes up in the morning with 18 white hairs. Or some say 18 rows of white hair.
18. Well, that's a special number.
Right. He was 18 years old. So as far as I understand, what's believed to happen here is that Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah had this process that the Alter Rebbe is talking about here. And he had a tzaddik planted within him that gave him the spiritual koyach, the strength of this ruach, to be able to accomplish the task that was set before him, right? Now, the fact that he chose 70 here is significant, and as far as memory serves, I want to say 70 minus 18 is what, 52? 42? 52? So...
Definitely isn't too.
I might be mistaken here, but I'm pretty sure the soul that he got was Shmuel, who died at 52. I think that might be wrong. Shmuel Hanavi, the prophet Shmuel.
Oh, I see.
In any case, there's a pretty good example of what we just learned here. How often does that kind of thing happen? Every day? Very rare. Very rare. Though it's possible. So it's worthwhile for a Beinoni to keep striving to be a tzaddik, to keep climbing this ladder, to meditate about despising evil, and to meditate about loving God and good and climbing to Him. And every time you have a desire that comes into your head for a physical pleasure, to push it away. I don't really need the ham sandwich. It's going to be in the toilet in 12 hours. The more time you spend doing that, and the more you climb up this ladder, you can potentially maybe become a tzaddik someday, really. Even if you were never originally dealt
God's
the cards.
Help. Miraculously, He gives you again, rare, a quantum leap.
Right, He's going to give you this extra special something, right?
Something.
So that's the end of chapter 14.
Good chapter.
Good chapter, right? What did we learn in chapter 14? One very important line.
Mind over matter.
Mind over matter. That's very important. That's our special tool that we learned in 14. What's the message of 14? I know we read the introduction late, but I'll read it again for us. Every Jew can be a Beinoni.
All right.
A person cannot force himself to change the way he thinks, or you can't force yourself to change your intellect, and you can't force yourself to change your emotion. It's a long process. You can force yourself to change your garments, and the moment you change your garments, you're a Beinoni, right? Everybody can be a Beinoni, and you have to be. So go be it, yeah? Not everybody can be a tzaddik. However, maybe you still can. You should keep trying. And this is the meaning of that oath. Be a tzaddik and don't be a Russia. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Any questions on the concepts of this parsha? Or this chapter, rather? Very important concepts. We're not, I don't believe, again, going to talk about the idea of changing your habits, your teva sheni, making a second nature. But it's a beautiful and important lesson we should remember. All right? Pretty good? We may even have time for another chapter. Who knows? Alrighty. Well, I'll go ahead and grab the camera, I suppose. Unless... oh, yeah, sure. Thank you. Please join us next time for chapter 15.
Same button?
Yep.